Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we have something a bit different and super exciting, our very own kitchen remodel project. But before we dive in, please don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and hit that notification bell so that you never miss another update on our latest projects and vlogs. Let's get started. Now, the kitchen remodel was a long-awaited project that started way back when. And back in 2022, we decided to hit the switch and actually start the kitchen remodeling. Really, before we moved in, the kitchen itself was just a builder-grade kitchen where all the cabinetry and the finishings on the cabinetry were not really up to par with the rest of the house. So we decided that at some point when we moved in 2012, we were going to eventually do the kitchen, but that was taking a little bit longer than we expected because that's one of the most expensive remodels that you can do is the kitchen. When we moved into the house, the first thing we did was improve the backyard. When I say improve the backyard is we had to move the fish from our other house to this house, but yet we did not have a pond here, so we quickly found somebody to build a pond. The backyard was pretty plain. There was nothing in the backyard but grass. There was a deck on the back with steps going down, but back there it was pretty much grass, trees, and nothing else. So we quickly had people here digging and building a pond so that we can move the fish before winter came, because they go into hibernation once that happens. So it was a long process where we had two crews here, one building the pond and another crew pretty much putting in a deck and an outside kitchen. The process was supposed to take about 3 weeks, ended up taking about 3 months for the pond. That was August. By the time we were done, winter was knocking on the door. So that process took a while, but it was completed. So one day when we got back from Japan, which was back in 2019, so Emerson and I had gone on a trip to Japan, and one of the things we did in Japan was learn how to make ramen. So one day I decided that I was going to make some ramen, and I had the kitchen all set up. I had my pots and pans, and if you've ever made ramen, you know it takes like over 24 hours to make ramen. And so the broth that I was making was a pork broth, and that took me 24 hours to make. And so that was simmering and brewing overnight. And in the morning when I got up, went down to the kitchen, everything was smelling nice, and I took it off the stove, and and then my wife came down and she started looking around. She says, "You cooked this overnight?" And then she started looking at the finishings on the cabinetry, and he had worn off. He had eroded the veneer on the cabinetry, had sort of like peeled off, because pretty much the kitchen since we moved in had been the original kitchen, which they used builder-grade materials and everything, appliances. So we decided right there and then, when my wife came down and saw what was happening, she decided, hey, we're doing this, we're gonna redo this kitchen.
Also really good. Like the nice creamy udon noodles go really well with the broth. Oh my god, this tastes like the stuff that we had in Japan.
So, in our home, the kitchen is one of those places where all kinds of memories are created. Everything happens here. Everybody tends to congregate in the kitchen whenever they come home. We come in through the garage, and the first room that you enter is basically the kitchen. So, everybody tends to come in, you put down your keys, you sit down, have a conversation, talk about your day, say hello to Jibo. Hey Jibo. Merry Christmas.
And you too. I got you this old computer.
How nice for you. Hey Jibo, can you twerk?
If you insist.
So a lot of memories are created in the kitchen over the years, and this kitchen has served us well. So I'm not gonna say I'm sad to see it go, but I'm very happy to await the next stage of this kitchen because it's gonna be beautiful.
Like 3 months ago, nobody talked about mine.
So, in order to store the appliances that were arriving from the manufacturers in the house, we had to empty the garage. And emptying the garage meant moving the 914 that has been taking residence in the garage for the past 3 years, since 2019, when Emerson and I decided to work on the project. So, I had to put all the wheels back on the car. I had to, of course, put the brakes on, put all the brake lines in, bleed the brakes, and then promptly push the vehicle out of the garage. So I pushed it to a patch of grass next to the shed outside, and then I had to build the tent around it. So I bought a Harbor Freight tent that was big enough to accommodate the vehicle. So we pushed it out of the garage and into the tent, and then build the tent around it. And then we had to move the rest of what was in the kitchen out of the cabinetries, the counters, all the nooks and crannies where we stored stuff, all the decoration. Everything had to be moved out of the kitchen. The majority of the kitchen moved downstairs at the bar, which became like a makeshift kitchen, and then we used the outside kitchen for certain things, cooking, and then we had like a hot plate downstairs. And so after that, demolition started on the kitchen. When demolition started, it was the most noisy part of the project. It went on for 2-3 days because they had to tear the floor apart, or the tile on the floor. They were using a jackhammer to break the tiles that were on the floor, and that was the most noisy part of the project. You shook the house like you couldn't be anywhere in the house. I couldn't take my Zoom calls while I was working from home in the house. I had to go outside or go somewhere where it was quiet. It was dusty. There was dust everywhere. There was tiles and slate everywhere that had to be swept up. They had sealed off the kitchen so that the dust wouldn't escape, but there's always vents where the dust creeps in, and you find it in somewhere in the rest of the house. They had air scrubbers that were going all the time, which kept the dust to a minimum and confined it pretty much to the kitchen for the most part. But it did get into the rest of the house. There was no effort to save anything because we didn't want to reuse the cabinetry that was in the kitchen, so everything was like broken apart and loaded into the vehicles.